I'm going to hit record on the audio. So we're going to start in three, two, one.
Happy New Year, Pod! We are back for an all new season of Representation in Cinema. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. We talk about the films that center Black, Brown, and Indigenous voices, as well as the film industry itself. This podcast is produced by Chris Lindstrom, the co founder of Lunchador Podcast Network, and I'm Jessica Griff, your host, and the founder, director, and co producer of Our Voices Project, a production company that shares the stories and lived experiences of Black, Brown, Indigenous peoples through visual storytelling and truth telling. We're community engaged filmmakers who firmly believe that you can't center films on these communities without being in community and in solidarity with them. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the little bell to get notified about new episodes when they drop. And if you're listening to the podcast, hit that follow button, rate us 5 stars, leave a comment, please. It's a new year, which means new movies, and it's January, so that also means upcoming award shows. Oscar nominations are coming up next week, and we're going to be diving into that in our next episode. So, again, make sure you are following us to get updated on that, because depending on how this goes, I'm going to have a lot to say. If Sinners is not up for Best Picture, we write it down. Okay. Anyway, tonight, let's talk about the movies that are coming out this year, some of the blockbuster films, some more independent films coming out, and then how to watch the truly independent films, the ones without agents, the ones without a studio backing, how to see films by filmmakers like us. We are normally in the studio with our producer Chris, but since the winter decided to fight back today in Rochester, we are virtual today. So joining us on the podcast today, we also have fellow film fans that are also going to be taking this deep dive with me. So, first up, we have Tiffany Nicholas. Tiffany is an avid movie watcher, a casual art maker, and the number one fan of the 2002 DreamWorks movie Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. I don't know why I'm having issues like talking today, but there it is. She has a lot of opinions about a lot of things, especially movies. And despite knowing that these opinions are not objective facts, she will argue about them as if they are. Right on. Welcome to the podcast, Tiffany.
Thanks, Jackie. Excited to be here. And I will ride at dawn with you on the Sinners front. So let me know
Yes,
when I'm there.
absolutely. Also, if you didn't know, she has an Etsy shop. It's called Lawfully Original. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm holding up one of her stickers called I Loved You in IMDb. Movies are my love language. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, if you are not already following her on Instagram or following her Etsy shop, I will have that in the show notes or in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Next up, we have Christopher Rush. Christopher is a Rochester native who is deeply invested in the success of underrepresented communities in Rochester. He serves the community as a part of the Rochester Monroe Anti Poverty Initiative, or also known as RMAPI, supporting organizations and individuals committed to creating conditions for upward mobility in Rochester and Monroe County. Chris is also the host of the Crush Hour on WAYO 104.3 FM, connecting with leaders working to make Rochester a better place. Welcome to our podcast, Christopher.
Thanks for having me. That bio makes me seem a lot more important than I really am, but it also makes me seem like I'm really busy, which I am. So, I think thank you so much for reading that, and thank you for this invite to be here on this podcast with you.
Absolutely. I was also on Chris's show, The Crush Hour, where we talked about all things our Voices Project, of course, and a little bit, of course, about movies and why I got into filmmaking in the first place. So I'm glad to have you on our podcast. Glad to have both of you on our podcast. So let's dive in to the discussion. So, as always, there are a lot of films that are coming out, and I really want to get into the movies that you are really excited about. So, starting with Tiffany, what are I'm gonna say like between 3 and 5 movies that you're really excited about this year, and why?
Sure. Yeah. I feel a little restricted by just having an hour to discuss this because I mean it's a whole year of movies, but I'll do my best. So I feel like I go to the movies a lot, and so by going to the movies, you see a lot of trailers and a lot of things coming up. So I have a running list of things that I've kind of accumulated. But a few that I'm really, really excited about are Sunrise on the Reaping. I know that's kind of been in the works for a while. If you don't know, it's the Hunger Games prequel. So the book came out last year. If you're a fan of the books or the universe of the Hunger Games, it's about Haymitch's games. So the book and the movie were announced together. There was a big, exciting casting announcement for everything. The cast is phenomenal. The movie looks amazing. It's Francis Lawrence directing, so it's the same guy who did the Hunger Games. Um, and I'm just so excited. I love the book. I think I cried the hardest I've cried at a book in a long time. So I'm super excited for that. It doesn't come out until November, but we'll be on the lookout for that. I really am excited for I Love Boosters. Not a ton of information about that one yet, but just looking at the cast, I mean, how could you not love it? It's Kiki Palmer, Lakeith Stanfield, Naomi Aki, Will Poulter, Demi Moore. Like, what more could you ask for? And it's a heist movie, which I am a big fan of.
I'm
And
so
then
glad. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so
no,
glad you
you're
brought
good,
that movie up
please.
because I was like, I just found it and I'm going.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, this cast, and also Boots Riley,
Yes,
who's also,
yeah.
if you're not familiar with his work, also did Sorry to Bother You, and I believe he has there's a series on Amazon Prime that's available on Amazon Prime that he did that is supposed to be an incredible show. So yeah, sorry, I just had to interject with that because
No, I love
I was
it.
excited to name that film, and I'm like, yes, because I was so excited for that. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
I
Continue.
watched Kiki Palmer in one of them days. I'm like, I'll watch anything she's in for the next however long. She's amazing. And then I'm really excited for the drama, which is Zendaya and Robert Pattinson in a new A24 movie. And they play a couple in like crazy drama with their relationship. So just from like the trailers and the behind the scenes shots, I'm really excited about those. And then a few honorable mentions that I have listed. I'm a Marvel girly at heart, so Spider-Man, brand new day, not the home, and Avengers Doomsday, obviously. So super pumped for those. Legend of Aang, the new Avatar movie, and All That's Left of You, the new Palestinian film that's coming out, I think next week at the Little. So lots of good stuff coming out this year.
Yeah. So at the time, so it comes out January 23rd
Yes.
at the Little Theater. So definitely check that out. It originally premiered at our the Palestinian Film Festival last year in November, and I'm looking forward to having it back again. So shout out to Witness Palestine Film Festival, who was also on the podcast last year. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool. That's all for me for
And
now.
yeah. So Chris, how about you? What are the movies you're looking forward to this year?
It definitely was difficult to narrow them down to 3 to 5. But I kind of stuck with what I know and things that I've always been drawn to in the first place. That Toy Story movie, I think, is going to be. I'm really looking forward to that. I think if they make Toy Story movies up until Andy's funeral, I'll probably still be tuning in and locked in and trying to watch those movies. I really would. They just meant so much to me as a child watching it. I also had on there specifically because one of my all-time favorite movies is I think is a 99 or 98 version of The Mummy with Brandon Fraser. So there is another Mummy coming out this coming year that I don't know, it just is real eerie and scary, right? So like I like the original first Mummy because of I just think at the time the graphics were good, but this one, is kind of like dark. And I guess when you think about mummies, it should be, right? I mean, and then I don't know if you guys saw the trailer, but it seems like I'm interested. I don't want to give too much away if you guys are interested in seeing that. And then something I think is going to be cool. I don't know, because of where we are in this country related to like, just social relationships and social interactions and law enforcement. And, it's a lot going on. But that Night Patrol movie I thought was going to be something that I'll be interested in seeing. But it's the one with the street gangs and the LAPD. And they find out that there's this task force at night that, to keep the gangs intact, and they're vampires. And I just think that's like, I don't know. I just think that's really cool, because, vampires, they're I don't know if they ever left, but they're making a comeback, when we had with Sinners. And what people I don't think people put the two and two together, but Sinners was really close to like From Dusk Till Dawn. And that's one of my favorite movies as well. And then thinking about this movie where, at night, the world's changed because vampires come out to play. I just think it's something I'm interested in. Those things always draw my attention. And there's
Yeah,
black people in that one too. So that's my other favorite part.
yes, that one is called. So that's Night Patrol.
Night Patrol. What did I
That one.
say? Did I get it wrong?
Oh no, I don't know. I
Oh,
wasn't sure
okay.
if I had heard the movie, but just for
Yeah.
again for any listeners or viewers, the movie that he's describing is Night Patrol. And so I believe that is coming out, or actually at the point of this recording, it'll have already come out. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Are there any others that like? And then of course, because it's, I mean, I know you said like between, I said 3 to 5 because I mean I don't know, I tend to go on tangents. So I was just like, oh, 3 to 5 might be okay. But if there are other movies that you're like, no, we need to talk about this, like, yeah, feel free to let me know because then I can.
Definitely, they will kill you. I just I like the actress. I think her name is it Zazie Beats?
Jazzy
Zazie,
Beats,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
really enjoyed her in Atlanta and other movies that she's been a part of. So I think that'd be. I didn't even get a chance to check out the trailer, but just knowing that she's in it and knowing and reading
yeah.
the blurb about it, I thought it'd be something I'd be really interested in. Cold Storage or something I was drawn to as well. Um, I just think some of these movies I think are like windows into the future, unfortunately. So, and I think that was one of them. I think some of this stuff might happen eventually. Of the government playing around for too long or too many things, and having to try to keep things contained, and then they don't stay contained, and now we got to deal with it.
When things are way too close to home, I'm always like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know if I'm going to watch this. But yeah, no, for sure. I definitely think movies that are like that, any movies that are dystopian, telling of the future, I feel like there's always a layer of truth just because a lot of folks, especially when you're talking about filmmakers and screenwriters, and even authors, right, who write these stories, they're looking at like the patterns of history. So
Mm.
I know that Octavia Butler, who wrote Parable of the Sower books, um, took a lot from like she saw the patterns in studying history and everything, and then used that to write the book. And of course now I'm hearing from people who are reading Parable of the Sower now are like, I've had to put the book down several times because it was way too close to what's happening right now. So yeah, and oftentimes I know some people who say history repeats. I know that other people say history parallels. So it makes sense. That people, it's often in these stories you find truths. Some of the things, some of the movies that I was interested in, and actually one of them I don't even know if it's only going to select theaters, but I will definitely be on the hunt for it to see if it's coming because there's this retelling about the explorer Magellan, who was very much, a part of that the age of exploration. And we hear, of course, we always hear about like he's this great explorer, but not about the retelling of his story in a way that decolonizes. And in fact, Magellan, which was actually supposed to be out this month, is it's marketing itself as the decolonial retelling of the Portuguese explorer's life and expeditions. And in the trailer, you very much see that where it's not propping them up as this like, great man. It's not, it's actually pushing him down. It's like not even pushing him down, it's more of like telling the truth of like who this man really was and how he wasn't really after, um, simply exploring. There's the colonization that's happening, right? And so it's telling the truth about someone's story and not holding like not holding anything back. And I think that's a story that I would like to watch. Again, if you go and watch the trailer, for anyone who's listening or watching, definitely go watch the trailer for that. Um, and I'm like, this I feel like needs to be required, like watching, like in a classroom, because again, the story that I got was definitely not the decolonial retelling of this man's story. So I'm like, can we get more stories like that? So I'm wondering if it's going to open up in theaters. So I will definitely be um, keeping y'all up to date on that. But that's something I was interested in. Also, 28 years later, The Bone Temple by Nia DaCosta. Nia DaCosta also released, or well, directed and released Hedda with Tessa Thompson, who I've seen that play, and so her movie adaptation was just brilliant. And so I'm looking forward to more from her. She also directed the latest reboot of Candyman. So I've just been like interested in watching more of her films, and of course I love 28 Days Later. And I love a lot of things, not all things, but a lot of things with zombies. So that's just me. If it has zombies, I'm like, okay, what's the plot? Please let me know. I'm actually was like debating whether or not to watch Shaun of the Dead again. Because I love zombies. I love those movies.
I just watched that for the first time like last week.
What did you think?
Oh, so I watched the Cornetto trilogy. I watched the full 3 in a day. So fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So again, for those who don't know, not again, I'm introducing it. So for those who don't know, so the Coronado trilogy, what Tiffany is referring to, so the Edgar Wright directed movies that are Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Not to be confused with At World's End, which is part of Pirates of the Caribbean, because I mix it up all the time. So and there are these comedies that I feel like are very well written, and also like there's it's not just like surface level comedy. There's like other like recurring themes, deeper themes that are happening throughout the film. But they're all hilarious, and so I would highly recommend those too. But yeah, oh my god, that I'm so happy for you having watched those. And of course you had mentioned All That's Left of You. I'm looking forward to that coming to the little theater. They Will Kill You. I did see the trailer actually for that one, Christopher, and that looks amazing. For any Bridgerton fans, You, Me, and Tuscany, starring Haley Bailey, and I always get his name wrong, Ray Jean Page. So, um, so the love interest in the first season. If you're a Bridgerton fan, if you haven't seen the trailer for that film, it's a romantic comedy. It looks like a lot of fun. So I'll just say the brief synopsis here. Holly Bailey stars as Anna, a young woman who has abandoned her dreams of becoming a chef and is now drifting through her 20s with a series of bad choices. Um, and it is, let's see, it's directed by, I don't think I'm familiar with this director, Kat Coro, who also directed Marry Me. I think it was starring Jennifer Lopez. But from the trailer and then also too from like just the press tour, I love their energy. And whenever I like an actor or I like actors, I have a propensity to want to watch that over like, other things where I'm not as familiar. I'm not a big romantic comedy girly. I prefer drama I prefer drama and period pieces. Um, but I'm like it's two actors that I absolutely love, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this now. And then as far as so I guess I'm going back and forth of whether or not like I want to see the movie Michael, so the one about Michael Jackson that was coming out that was pushed to this year. Um, and it is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who also did Training Day, the Equalizer films, the reboot of Magnificent Seven, and then Southpaw, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Um, I have always appreciated and adored his work. He also did King Arthur in 2004, which I was just like, okay, all right, Black Summer, just getting into like Arthurian legend. Let's go. I starring Clive Owen. Yeah, I do like that director. And yeah, I've just been going back and forth though, because I'm just like, I'm I feel like I know quite a bit because there was a film that came out. I forget when it came out. I know it was, but it's now considered like an older film. But it did, yeah. Now by today's standards. And I liked that one. I felt like we saw a lot of his story already. So I don't know. I'm interested to see, going back and forth. I'm interested to see, where they take this one specifically about Michael Jackson's life. I don't know. How do either of you feel about that film? Anything? Any thoughts?
Is his nephew playing Michael? Like,
Yes, yes,
I feel like I saw
yeah,
that and I want to make sure that
yeah,
wasn't a
yeah,
fake
yeah.
thing
No,
I
you're
read. Okay.
good. Yes,
I
his
think
his real life nephew, Jafar Jackson. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think between that and a director like it's Training Day is probably in my top three. I don't know. I got like 20 movies in my top three, but Training Day is definitely up there. And so I love his work. But man, I just some of these things I wish it's still I don't know. I would hate to see it as like a money grab, you know. Some of our idols and people who had tremendous impact on how we see the world and music and culture. Sometimes we gotta give them a break, man. I think I don't know. I just a lot of stuff, and it's like I mean, it's a tragic ending as well too. And there's so much in his life, like what's like maybe you were talking about Jackson 5 that talked about like his early upbringing. I think that was what the movie was called. And then there's been like miniseries and movies and some that were really really poor and some that were better. But it's like at some point, we just you know just gotta let some people rest in peace.
Yeah, yeah. I heard the same criticisms about the recent Whitney Houston film. And I do get that because there's so much out there about them. It's like, number one, what else is there that we're pulling? Two, there are so many other figures that I feel like I would love to dig more into their histories and their stories. Someone please redo that Nina Simone film, okay? Redo the Nina Simone film. I throw it out, throw it all the way out. But yeah, so I definitely hear that, which is why I've kind of been hesitant, like on seeing this one. I may watch that if it comes to like streaming services. But of course, if you're listening, if you're watching, definitely comment and let me know. Let us know, your thoughts about the films that we've listed so far. And I cannot move on without mentioning that we're getting a sequel to The Devil Wears Prada. I am so, so excited about that one. I saw the trailer and I'm like, because that's so The Devil Wears Prada is one of my comfort films, and normally I'm not someone who is huge on like sequels. I'm just like, just let things, go. As um Kylo Ren would say, let the past die. At the same time, I don't know. I saw the trailer, and I saw that the original people are back. So I'm like, okay, I have a little bit more. I have way more like faith in the film, or faith in the rather than like the filmmakers and the cast, than I would if it were just like again some sequel that they decided to like bring in like new people and not really having anyone from the original cast. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And then as far as I believe there was a couple others that you had mentioned, um, you know, Doomsday. I feel like myself like kind of waning off of like the Marvel
Yeah.
like universe, and I haven't for a while just because I'm just like there's so many there's so many
They're
films at
doing
this
too
point.
much. They're doing too much.
Ah,
I'm really stressed about it. But I think like I say that and I keep complaining about it and then they've been doing all the teasers of like this person's coming back and this person's coming back
yeah,
and every time I'm like this movie is going to be 6 hours long. But I will be watching it. Like I'll do whatever I
yeah,
need to,
yeah, yeah.
just
Same
because
with
it's like such a
Spider-Man.
huge part of like my movie, like why I love movies so much is like I grew up with Marvel movies and um I like for the last however many years have gone to the premiere of every one and Like I've made a lot of friends watching Marvel, and so like it's just like I'm gonna watch it, you know. But
Of
I'm
course.
gonna complain about it still.
Yes, absolutely. Because there are people will just now be like, so I haven't watched any of these, and which one do I need to start? Like, there's still people saying, which one do I need to start with if I want to go through? And I'm like, you have so much catching up to
There's
do.
so
I am
much.
so sorry. I am so, so sorry.
I'm gonna
Yes,
be honest with you. That's me. I'm usually that guy. Like, there's another Marvel movie coming out. I just go and watch them just to say I did, so I can stay in the loop. I don't know what's going on a lot of the times.
That's okay.
The universe is too wide. It's too big. I go for the graphics. I go for the fight scenes. I go to see, oh, how are they gonna get out of this one? But to know what's actually going on, you got to be this. We going to tomorrow. We talking about 80s and 90s, right? Like you got to really know what's going on, and I don't. I don't really know what's going on in these Marvel. I feel like there's a new character, superhero every 3 years. Like I never,
Yeah.
by now they got to run out of comics, right? Like what are we still producing?
there are a lot of comments, and there are people though. I give credit to the people, the YouTubers specifically, who give like there are so many people who have those kind of like summary videos where it's like, okay, here are the things that you need to know. So if
Here
you
are the
like watch
characters,
one of
here's the plot
exactly,
points. Yeah.
exactly. So like if you watch, and it's probably what like an hour or so, 45 or to an hour or an hour and a half of your life. But like it's like it's rather that like at this point I'm like if you're gonna watch that, I'd rather you do that. I mean, yes, you can watch the movie. I would be like, okay, if you want to watch all the movies, I mean, more power to you. But if you're just trying to keep up with like the lore, go to one of the YouTubers who summed up the entire MCU up to this point. Because I bet you there are so many out there who do a great job of like summarizing. So that's
No,
I'll
they
host
do. They do.
I'll host a workshop and we can have an interactive session and I'll let you
yes,
know
Yeah.
everything you need
Let
to
me
know
know.
before
yes.
Doomsday.
Okay.
Exactly. You know what? You know what? You know what? Tiffany, make it happen. Make it
Let's do
happen.
it.
Whatever you need help with organizing, I'm there for you.
All right.
Um,
You heard it here first, folks.
yeah, other than that, those are the ones that I'm really excited for. Um, and I don't know if either of you have been following Dune. I watched the first one. I know that that's coming out. Yeah. See, I watched the first one. Um, and then the second one came out, and then now the third one, and I just kind of like, I don't know. Not to say that I necessarily wasn't interested, but I've kind of just fallen off. Does anyone feel strongly about the Dune films?
Mm-mm.
No. All right. So then,
I watched the first two, couldn't tell you a single thing that happened.
Yeah.
They're not for me.
Yeah.
and that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I did that thing where I'm like, okay, I know there's a book. I need to read the book. I'm gonna go watch the movie. Then I remember like, and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Because now, as always, I'm comparing the book to the film. So I'm like, then this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is supposed to be this, and I'm just like, Timothy Chalamet it was not the right person. But that's me because I feel like Timothy Chalamet is in everything, and I'm just like, there are other actors who are trying to make it. Maybe give them a shot. I don't know. But again, this is not about Timothy Chalamet, nor will it ever be on this podcast because it's all about representation in cinema. Okay, so you're moving on to um and I wanted to get your thoughts. I think I talked a little bit about this earlier in our episode tonight, but I we we typically see a lot of remakes and sequels and prequels, and I just wanted to get both of your thoughts about like your general feelings about those. Do you feel like those are necessary for like a new generation? Does it depend on the film for you, or the franchise, or the storyline? What are your thoughts? And I'll start with Christopher. You can have you go first for that.
It all depends. I feel like when there's those extensions and those, the story just keeps growing. I often feel a lot of times when there's series that are like, or movies that are started as books and there's like way more stories to tell, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? Sometimes in Hollywood, it seems like it's money grabbing, right? Like Scream 7, like that's wild. You know what I'm saying? Like they got the captive audience, but we doing a lot right there. Toy Story 5, like I said, I'm gonna follow them up to Toy Story 89. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Andy's funeral. Andy's funeral.
And yeah, if they have Andy's funeral, I'm gonna be there. So I think, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. If they got creative ideas, I think people feel like with technology now, with the current talent pool now, they probably feel like they can make and tell stories a little different, a little better. I'm all in for that. But like I said, I think it depends. There's certain classes, certain things you don't want to touch. Like one of the things I used to always talk about were, I remember learning that they were either going to have a sequel to Forrest Gump, or they were going to try to figure out a way to tell, right. But right, listen, if there's an opportunity to like see how he progressed through some of like current events, that'd be kind of interesting, or his son, right? But like I said, I really do think it depends. Some of these stories do need to tell, but some of them they end. And I know we probably don't want to hear it, but I remember watching an interview with Ryan Coogler, and he talked about Sinners being a one and done thing. Like he said, I'm not trying to drag this on. It was a point in time. It was a movie. It was something in my head I needed to get out. Now it's on to the next thing. And I know we probably was like, oh no, there's probably a million other stories we could tell, from or prequels, right, of how everybody got to that day on that particular night and their lives changed forever. So I guess I'm rambling now, but it depends. Long story short, it depends. It's a case by case thing for me. I don't need another Batman, though. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I have some thoughts on that, but I will move on to Tiffany. I'll move on to Tiffany. Tiffany, before I start going, your thoughts on that?
Okay. I mean, I also agree. It depends. I think there's like different classes of sequels, right? I think when it's an intentional sequel, whether it's like a book adaptation, it's like the director already had like 2 or 3 movies in mind, stuff like that. I think that's when it works, right? I go back and forth about legacy sequels in particular, because most of the time it feels like it's just a cash grab and they're like, oh, here's this thing that worked well. But some of my favorite movies, and I say some of Top Gun Maverick, inexplicably works so well. Hated the first one, loved Top Gun Maverick. And I feel like Devil Wears Prada is like kind of walking that line, but like you said, I'll watch it. It's an incredible movie, amazing cast, like it's gonna be great. But I think that is kind of walking the line of like the danger of it's just like they're looking for something else, right? I'm glad you mentioned Scream, Christopher, because I have mixed opinions about that one too. I love the original franchise. It's my favorite horror movie franchise. Scream is one of my favorite movies. I really enjoyed the 2, like Scream 5 and 6, the requels, as they kind of talk about in the movies. And I was looking forward to Scream 7. But I am a little disappointed with like everything that happened with the studio. Jackie, I'm sure you know about this, but long story short, the studio fired the lead actress Melissa Barrera, who I think played Sam, I think is her name, for voicing some pro-Palestine opinions and stuff. So not looking forward to that as much, but like as a concept, I think I was looking forward to it, and it's kind of unfortunate just because I love those movies so much, and I think they did the requel really well. So that's definitely a little bit of a bummer. And then going into kind of like the remake world, live action Moana, I want nothing to do with it. I don't know what we're doing. I'm so sick of it.
What are we doing?
Why, like, what are we? It came out like 10 years ago. That's not old enough for a remake. There's no need for this. The original movie's perfect, and I'm sick of people. This is my soapbox, is that I'm sick of people saying that animation needs to be remade because it's its own art form. It's doing its own thing. It doesn't need to be retold. So this is my message to the people. If you're a big production studio, leave animation alone, please.
Please, because yes, like we don't need anymore. There are so many people, there's so many
Yeah.
screenwriters, right, wanting to get their stories like on screen, stories that will resonate with folks, stories that will move folks, stories about uh, things moments in our history, right, that need to be talked about. And also, too, Christopher, to go back to what you were mentioning about Sinners. Yeah, like there was this one, I can't remember who it was, but there was someone recently talking about how, he had approached Ryan or wanted to approach Ryan about doing possible sequels to Sinners to try to, and he specifically said it was about, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was about like broadening like the audience, like who really resonates with the film. And I'm like, okay, but like there was black representation. There's also, and of course, and I'm sorry, but like there was more representation in that film, right, than just than black folks. Even though it was definitely a film that is focused specifically on black people, I there was also you had representation from the Chinese community, the Chinese American community in Mississippi, which is also there's an 8 minute documentary by Al Jazeera on YouTube that you can actually look up right now about Chinese Americans, and what they were going through in the Mississippi Delta. You had um, you had Irish. I remember like watching when Sinners first came out. Not only were there black people just like dancing to Irish like an Irish jig, like you also had Irish people like getting on TikTok and being like, I've never seen like just being in a film is incredible. Like Ryan did not have to do this, and he did this, and it's amazing. Like you already have a wide range of people that this is really like Sinners is really connecting to. So like to try to also say we need a sequel because we need an even bigger range of people who are represented. It's like no, and it also too like the Choctaw. Now, if Ryan decided he wanted to do a film specifically about the Choctaw vampire hunters, I'm here for it. But since he was like, no, that's one and done, I'm like, okay, fine, that's fine. I can imagine it. Or if someone wants to do a film specifically about the Choctaw Nation, and it's led by an indigenous filmmaker, or you're going to the Choctaw Nation and asking their permission and being in community with them, not just like having conversation, but actually being in community, being in solidarity with them, and they agree to have you talk about their nation, then great, fine, awesome. But like this whole idea of like doing a sequel just because you didn't feel represented in the film is crazy. So of course, and going to the movies, I know that, when I go to the movies, I'm not always going to be represented, and that's fine. I can enjoy a thing for like what it is. I can enjoy the fact that there's people that resonate with the film that I don't specifically resonate with, and that's okay too. It's not going to do that with everyone, but if I can appreciate the story and also too like again the great efforts that are made in making the film, then that's great. I think that's awesome. So speaking again, because of course we're talking about who resonates with film, and the people behind the scenes, of course, making the film. You had mentioned Ryan Coogler earlier before I mentioned Mia DaCosta and people like Bruce Riley as well. We often talk about on our podcast, of course, about um, not just representation, but genuine representation, and who gets to tell the stories, who gets to make the film, and whose films get to be seen by a mass audience. And so I was like looking through, how many filmmakers, how many Black, Brown, Indigenous filmmakers did we see, make films this year? Who was it that was calling the shots behind the camera? And I was looking at a few different articles about um, from like progress like the Hollywood's made as far as like representation not only in front of the camera but behind the camera. There were quite a few articles, and it specifically talks about not only just directors of color, but then also women directors. Um, and what I saw or found was, I mean, it wasn't surprising, but still disappointing. Which was back in 2025. So there was a study done um, from it was the let's see, it was the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, which was led by Dr. Stacey L. Smith, and they're assessing gender and race and ethnicity in top grossing directors, and apparently that has plateaued again. Not surprised, just disappointed. And I guess back in, so it was like 2020. So this is going back to like 2024, and then I'll get to 2025 in a second. They say that in 2024, there were 24.1% of directors who were from an underrepresented or underrepresented racial and ethnic group. Which has been significantly higher back from like 2007, which is when I believe the study first began, which was 12.5%. So, like, we've doubled the percentage, but it's still 24.1%. And of course, um, let's see, going into, and then of course, so let's see, I believe in 2021, it was 28.6% of directors who were people of color. So it's actually going down. And with 2025, and so I think, oh, wait, let me go back. Before I mentioned that, 5.3% or six directors were women of color. So it was like 1.7% of all top grossing film directors in 18 years were underrepresented women. So 1.7%, this industry that's continuously saying that we're here for diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you're only getting, again, a very small percentage of people who are directors, number one, who are people of color or black or people of color, and then it's even small. The percentage is even smaller when you're talking about um, women of color, behind the camera. I believe last year, so 2025, um, there there were, as far as I know, or as far as I can tell, again, there were 24.3% of directors of the top grossing films from underrepresented racial groups. Women of color made up 5.4% of the directors. 2.7% were white women. And then I believe the study also shows that they're the highest, as far as like the ethnic group that has the highest representation, were that of Asian women. So I was like, okay, well, shout out to the Asian women, who got to make films and get it seen, because I'm here for representation no matter what. At the same time, I'm like, okay, so out of all the directors, we still only have a very small percentage. Now, when you're hearing things like that, and again, who gets to tell our stories, who gets to who from those underrepresented groups, who gets to tell stories in general. As film fans, and Tiffany, I'll go to you first. How does that make you feel? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
when you first hear that?
I mean, just like a super light question to answer, right?
We don't believe in asking very small questions on the podcast. That's all we do.
I mean, I think you said it, like it's not surprising, but disappointing but not surprising. Whatever the phrase is. Um but I think it poses an interesting question of like you said, like who we allow to make these, like tell these stories. Because I think when you hear the number, I think like when we talk about representation, a lot of the times it's about the people in front of the cameras, right? Like the actors that we see on screen that are kind of like visually representing communities of who have been underrepresented and things like that. So I'm really glad we're kind of talking about like the directors and writers and stuff, because I feel like it's this weird disconnect of like you want there to be representation behind the screen too, but the way that Hollywood specifically is set up right now is like it's not built for success, right? Like you have your Ryan Cooglers and like one in a million, like the stars align and like you have this brilliant person and they just happen to like be in the right place at the right time. Like obviously he's very talented, but like a lot of it is luck, right? Um, and obviously it's not just Ryan Coogler, but you know, we were talking about him earlier. So I think it kind of lends itself to the question of like, do we allow other people to tell these stories? And then if we do, it's like, how do we let them, right? And like, what's a way to do that respectfully and intentionally? And so I think I would love to see more partnership of like co-producing, co-directing with people like these bigger names, most often white men, kind of bringing in more people from these like underrepresented communities. Why am I struggling so hard with that word today? Using their platform and their experience and their everything that they have that the industry has given them because they're a white man, and using that and kind of allowing other stories to be told. So as much as I would love to see, you know, as a South Asian woman, I would love to see like a fully South Asian director team and writers and everything with a cast and all of that. But like realistically, it's not going to happen, right? Like we can all say that at least like within the next 10, 20 years, right? So I think it's about making mindful, gradual, intentional steps into getting to that point. And I think opening up like who's allowed to tell those stories, but like making sure that it's being done in not an exploitative way, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Christopher, your thoughts?
Man, I could talk about this for a very long time because I think it just, especially the work we do with, RMAPI with anti-poverty and centering people who you're typically disinvested in. Of course, I want to see representation. And, for the longest, whenever someone would recommend me watch something on Netflix or Hulu, the first thing I would ask them is how many Black people are in it. But what has come about, right? And it's the same thing where we talk about, there's always these push to support like Black-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. We're too far deep to where we are, right? So to your point about Ryan Coogler and being an outlier and making all this money, he still got paid from someone, right? And we were always told the person who signed the checks gets the most money, right? So and I was going to try not to do it, but I gotta do it. So there's, it's not enough to be in front of the camera. It's not even enough to be around the camera. I mean, like making the decisions. We gotta be, people of color, people are usually underrepresented, women, like they gotta be the starters of stuff, right? They gotta be the one signing the checks. They gotta be the one. And I know there's all these structural barriers and things around it where it makes it difficult to do. And essentially it just takes a lot of money, right? I mean, it's point blank period. So that's why there's certain people I admire, maybe not because with the content they produce, but just their ability to do it on their own. Individuals like Tyler Perry.
I knew it was. I could feel it, and I'm like, okay.
I had to set it up though. But so no, of course that's sad. Of course we don't like to see these numbers. Of course we want more women, and I just feel like women are far more creative and probably better to work with, and different. Of course we want other cultures represented, and I hate it. That's why I still haven't seen 12 Years a Slave. There's so many movies I haven't seen because I can't continue to see other cultures tell our stories and then benefit from it, right? I just can't even I can't agree with it, right? So these are stories of people really lived. So we're taking the stories that people actually experienced and then we're monetizing it. And then the people who were involved and the people that it actually happened to don't get the benefits of what happened. So any of these movies, any of these the documentaries, the movies, what's going on across the world, it's someone who okays that and sign the check so people can make it happen, and they get the most money out of the whole thing, right? And that's always going to be a problem to me.
And so I'm gonna expand on your point in a second, but to go back to something else that you said about about women being more creative. Ryan Coogler said that women filmmakers are actually better filmmakers.
I'm
And
telling
I
you, I
just
just
want to set the. I'm like, yo. As soon as I said that, I was like, and is,
There's
yeah, but
also
like,
there's a clip of it's like an actors round table, and Jennifer Lawrence gets a question about like what's the difference between working with a woman as a director versus the men that she's worked with, and it's like I think she says something about like the schedule made sense. It just was like everything is just easier to get done. So not to generalize, but that is what we're seeing too.
yeah. So I just, of course, and that's what when people who really understand diversity and really understand the beauty that comes with getting different people involved in the process from their lived experience, they really invest in it, and they really do. But then there's people who don't, and unfortunately, people who don't are the ones that sit at the top of these production companies and the top of these distribution companies. So I think not everyone, I know it's difficult, right? And money is a big piece of it, and then even money is not enough because you get to a certain point. Actually, I think it was a podcast I heard that Will Smith was on, and they kind of questioned him about, we have all these black entertainers in Hollywood. Why are we still not represented? Like some of the highest, Will Smith is worth, he's, you think about Will Smith, Denzel, now Michael B. Jordan's on the way, Samuel L. Jackson, right? And he says, believe it or not, we're still having the same troubles that people who are trying to get in the industry have, right? There's just certain relationships after a certain point. It's not money, it's relationships you got to get to the next level. And they still gatekeep that. There's still racism in there. There's still misogyny there. There's still so it's we just too deep. Like I said, it'd be easy to say we just start our own and do it, but the world is too deep in the wrong direction.
well, okay. So with that, while I understand why I stand all of that, I always, I always have hope. As someone who's an independent filmmaker, and yourself, like Christopher, being, a filmmaker as well, um, I am always hoping that, and understanding just the way in which the industry works, at least to that extent, um, wanting for there to be this movement of Black, Brown, and Indigenous filmmakers, and anyone else who is, marginalized, to be able to, who are often shut out, right, by Hollywood, to be able to support the stories that are talking about very important things that do reflect, our world and the people in it. Um, what do you think it would take for folks to look to independent filmmaking, to sort of seek out, or at least to support independent filmmakers who may not have the studio backings, may not have the agents, or the aggregators to pitch their film right to a distribution, a distributor, to be able to show in theaters and everything. What do you think that would take? Tiffany, I'll jump back to you.
Sure. Um, I know no one wants to hear it, but it does just take more work from the audience, right? Unfortunately. And if you're someone who is wanting to make that commitment to support smaller production studios or independent movies or whatever that may be, that does require more work. And luckily, we have people like Jackie, and there's so many people in the community, the Little Theater, that are showing and trying to highlight those voices. But you do have to search it out more, right? Because they don't have the huge marketing budgets. They aren't out in the streets doing crazy things with table tennis, like whatever's happening there. Um, so it does require more work from us, but I think it's work that's worth doing, because you're supporting people who care about the things that they're making, because they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't care. Um, yeah, so it's not the answer that I think a lot of people want to hear, but that's kind of what it is.
It is what it is. Absolutely, 100% agree, Tiffany. Christopher, what about you?
No, exact same way. I think it's very challenging to tell people that the world has never been fair, and I think one of the things that of course they got to work harder, but one of the things that we have to do better at as people who want to see them excel is promote their stuff, right? I have learned that, and I'm talking about, like I said, in my experience at our Mappy, when we're trying to share, like we have a screening of a documentary on the 27th. um, you know, I think I think we're at 209 people have registered to see this screening of this documentary. And I know it's going to be, the demographic is going to be 75%, old white men and women, right? They're going to come in, they're going to come and support. But that's important because it shows, if there's topics that people are interested in and they want to learn, especially in our space, right? These people, they do show up and they do come. And I think that's the bigger part is, like I said, that exposure, but knowing how more difficult it is and it's not in our face and they might not have an IMDb page and, they might can't afford to go to these festivals. Like, it's kind of like your friend that does music, right? I got people, I got friends who do music. I don't like none of their music, but I'll repost it and I'll share it anyway, right? But that's just how it goes, right? And but the same thing with in film, right? If there's a showing or something, just go, right? Like just be there, like just understand, or if there's particular filmmakers in your hometown that you could just go and support whatever they're doing, like that's one, right? And then one of the things social media has done is really eliminated the middleman, right? Is direct to consumer, right? YouTube has made it, you can upload it to YouTube and directly you can make a website for your film and just try to get as many people on the website, and you can bypass YouTube, right? So to Tiffany's point, it just take more work. And then the people who support the film industry on the outside, if there's filmmakers and directors and actors and actresses that you support, like everybody gotta do more.
Absolutely, 100% to both of y'all's points. And as far as doing that work and going to support, in your city. So for wherever you're watching from wherever you're watching from, or listening to this podcast, um, you have local film festivals or film festivals that are close to you that you know always appreciate having audiences. But I would challenge any listeners, because this is exactly, I believe, at least one of the things that it's going to take, and it's one of the things I'm constantly, as an independent filmmaker, I'm constantly um, debating, not necessarily debating, but rather like pushing people to do is, if you, of course, in your city, going into Google, there's also filmfreeway.com, which is where filmmakers submit their films to film festivals. Going in there, typing in your city, and just looking up film festivals near you. And then the thing that you can do is, once you find maybe two or three, right? Don't, because some cities there's like a ton of film festivals, and I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but just selecting maybe two to three film festivals near your city, where you can go and you can follow them on social media. You can go to their website and look up and see if they have a mailing list, and sign up for the mailing list, where you get news about their film festivals sent directly to your inbox. And then, when those film festivals come around, picking out a couple of different movies that seem like very interesting to you. And if you have the means to go and see these films, definitely go see these films. And there's not just film festivals. I think like I think it was let's see, it was either Tiffany or Christopher. I can't remember who it was. But it was specific. It might have been Christopher. Looking up local screenings, just community film screenings. Usually if you're on Facebook, there is usually a tab that's just events, and you can filter by film. If you see events that are coming up, screenings that are coming up, if the film sounds interesting to you, I would highly, highly suggest and challenge you to go to those screenings. If you're not someone who can get out of their home, who is not able to get out of their home, right? Some of these film festivals are online. Some of these community screenings are also hybrid. So if there's an option for you to watch it virtually, you can do that. There's also streaming services. And I know everyone is making fun of films on Tubi. There are also some quality films on Tubi. There are people making, and I mean, this doesn't necessarily speak to the quality, but there are people apparently making millions of dollars on Tubi. And again, there are not, this isn't necessarily guaranteed that it's going to be a quality film, but it's an example of how far we've come as far as streaming services providing films that people can see from the comfort of their home. So those would be the things that I would say. Now, if you are here in Rochester, I would highly, and please correct me if I do not mention, please, if you are listening or if you're watching on YouTube, comment with the film festival that I did not mention, because I'm sure as Rochester is a big festival city that I didn't mention, please comment and let me know below. But there's the Anomaly Film Festival, which is science fiction, fantasy, horror. Those are the genres that they specify or they focus on, and they do a great job with it. There's the One Take Film Festival, which is focused on documentaries. There's the Whitney Palatine Film Festival that I just mentioned. They're getting bigger and better every year. There were 3 films actually that were screened there that are in consideration for the Oscars right now. Let's go. There's also the Image Out Film Festival, which is dedicated to queer films. There is the Latin Film Fest that we've also had on the podcast. We've had Jason Barber, shout out to you, to talk about the films that he and Jared over at the George Eastman Museum curated together. There's the Rochester International Film Festival, and for our youth filmmakers, our filmmakers coming up, there's the Rochester Teen Film Festival that's hosted by Jennifer Sai and Little Theater every year that I actually happen to be a judge on for at least a few years. So that is always fulfilling and rewarding to see young and up and coming filmmakers, who have stories that are very creative, also working on their own films. So it's always amazing to see. Again, if I did not mention the film festival that you know of in Rochester, please, let us know in the comments. But there are so many opportunities in so many ways to support independent filmmakers. It just is going to require, like Tiffany and Christopher said, more work. All right. So as far as final thoughts, we asked our guests on the podcast, because of course this is called Representation in Cinema. We asked them this question: what is the type of representation that you would like to see? I'm not just talking about this year, I'm talking about in general. What is the representation that you want to see? Christopher, I'll start with you.
Yes, I also, I just want to plug in one last thing before I get started. A lot of these film festivals are volunteer run. Sign up to volunteer, because I was on a board of a film festival here, and I want to protect the innocent, because I love the work they're doing. But I was the youngest one there by like 30 years. And I was the only person of color, right? So of course, the way I saw the films was greatly different than the way they saw the films. So films that I might have gave a certain score, they gave a different score, and that changed which ones got picked that got sent to the final, right? So a lot of these film festivals, please make sure if there's an opportunity to volunteer, get on a board, be on a subcommittee, be on a screening committee, and you want to see representation, volunteer and get on those boards. They need the help. They need the help. And then, as far as representation, man, real life, man. I think we missing real life. We in this fantasy world. I think I can't watch another cop cop buddy thing. I can't watch another medical show. Not everybody's a doctor and living that life. I just can't, what I'm saying? Real life, some stuff that real people going through, like document that, and then, show there's a way that they can get out of some of those certain situations. But I just feel like we kind of got lazy with the cop shows and the doctor shows and the drug dealing shows. That's what I'll say, right? Can we be more represent? I mean, only a small percentage of the population work for law enforcement. A very small percentage of the population sell drugs. A small percentage work in medical field. Like, can we just focus on real life, man? Can we get a show following a school bus driver around and everything that goes to being a school bus driver? I think that'd be phenomenal. You get what I'm saying? Like, I want real life stuff. That's a representation of what's really happening in this country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tiffany, how about you?
Yeah. Can I ask a question before I answer?
Sure.
Is this the first podcast of the year?
It is.
Okay, then I would also like to plug, shout out to Jackie for winning Best Director at the Best of Rochester Awards. I feel like we haven't acknowledged that enough.
Shout out to Jackie. Yeah.
Thanks. Our producer, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I don't know if there's like effects that we can add or whatever, but congratulations. Very, very
Thank
excited.
you.
Very proud of you. So just wanted to
Thank
make sure we
you.
acknowledge
Thank you so
that.
very much.
And now I'll answer your question. So similar kind of to what Christopher was actually talking about, I really have been enjoying more like casual representation, I guess is like a way to phrase that. As much as I love stories that are like, again, I'll kind of use the South Asian example because that's an accessible one for me. Like A Nice Indian Boy last year was one that stood out for me. But it like very much is a story about being Indian, right? And I love those stories and I think those are important, but I've really been enjoying ones where like you can see people that look like you, but it's not like the only thing about the character, right? Like I have just really been liking movies and shows where I can like see a South Asian person, but it's like that's never mentioned that they're South Asian, or like queer characters or anything like that. So that's kind of what I have been looking for in a lot of movies and shows that I've been watching. And unfortunately, Christopher, one of them is The Pit, which is a medical show. So apologies. It is on
No,
tonight, so I
no,
will
please
need to
live
go soon.
live your life. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but yeah, so kind of representation where it's not like the only thing about that character.
For sure. And also, from what I hear about The Pit, it's the most accurate out of all the medical shows, according to people in that field. So that's another thing. And then also to your point, or to both of your points actually, um, again, it's about genuine, like a genuine representation. Don't just put us in the camera, in front of the camera, because I'm like, okay, we checked the box. We now have, one black person, one Asian person, one Latin person, like it, and I'm like one queer person, one disabled. Like it's like, okay, like don't make that thing the entire thing about their character. Like make them like complex human beings, like human beings are. Um, so no, and I appreciate uh both of your points, of course, and I appreciate both of you being on the podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to plug or say that you didn't get to mention earlier in the podcast?
No, follow me on Instagram _crush hour.
Yes, that's the other question. My apologies. Again. All right. So, where can people find you and how can people support you? Christopher, so you had just said say it again, and then I'll have Tiffany go as well.
Yeah, so _crush hour. That's the Instagram for my radio show every Monday morning. I'm on at Wayo 104.3 or wayofm.org. Different leaders in Rochester doing positive things, entrepreneurs, executive directors of nonprofits, people who are heavily into volunteering. We just come and have a conversation live over the radio, and we incorporate some music. I'm also a freelance videographer. I run a videography company called Rush Unlimited. You can also on Instagram _Rush Unlimited LLC. You can check out some of my work, and if there's any stories you want to tell, let me know.
Tiffany.
Yeah, I am on Instagram. I am an artist, like Jackie mentioned. Instagram and Etsy at Waffly Original. So if you want to follow along for any of my art creations, a lot of them are movie based, if that's your thing. For example,
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
big
All right,
fan
so
of a
for
niche
anyone-
reference. Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, because you can't obviously see this, but it is a shovel, and then next to the shovel it says, "I'm tired of this dick crab waffle. That's too damn bad." That if for those of you who don't know, or just lived under a rock, or just weren't given, a proper watch of this film, it holds based on the book by the same name. Yeah, every time this reference comes around, I'm like, oh my god! And if they only say the first part, I have to say the second part.
You got to
Like,
finish it. You got to. It's
you
like a
have
call
to
and
finish.
response. Yeah.
It is because then that's how you know. I'm like, okay, this is the person I want to talk to. Great.
Yeah.
But
yeah, on Instagram, and then if you want more controversial movie takes, I'm on Letterboxd at This Is Burke. How to Train Your Dragon fan through and through. So.
Fantastic. For those listening, we'll have that in the show notes, and for anyone watching on YouTube, we'll of course have that in the description. Thank you both for joining us on the podcast tonight. This was an amazing conversation, as I was saying before. We did go over a little bit of an hour, so that's fine, but I could have talked about this for at least 2 or 3 more hours because this is what I'm talking about all the time. But I appreciate you both for joining the podcast and giving your thoughts and insights, and also just sharing, the movies that you're really looking forward to this year. So thank you so, so much.
Thanks for having us.
And absolutely, absolutely. So to our listeners and viewers, wherever you're listening or watching from, hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating, share the episode, and leave a comment to let us know what you thought of tonight's episode. If there are any films that we missed or any film festivals that we missed, again, feel free to leave us a comment. We do reply. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can also visit ourvoicesproject.com and sign up for our newsletter to get more information about what we do. We'll be back with more episodes every Thursday with old and newly released movies that center Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks, general movie news, and interviews with film festival programmers, curators, film critics, and of course, filmmakers. Next week is our episode about Oscar nominations, and coming up in February, look out for our series on Black filmmakers and their filmography. You will not want to miss out on that. This has been Jackie McGriff, your host for this episode of Representation in Cinema. As always, thank you for listening.
This has been a presentation of the Lunchador Podcast Network.
I can't believe they didn't mention Jackass 5 and Coyote versus Acme. Come on, everybody. Get on it.
Is Coyote versus Acme coming out this year?
It is.
I can't believe I missed that either. Shame on me.